Commission members, if I could have your attention, please, we'll call the March 2017 meeting of the Fairhope Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Ms. Emily is taking the roll. First item on the agenda this evening, item number 2, approval of the minutes. You all were given copies of the minutes from the previous meetings.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
Okay.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve them. With a second, is there any discussion upon the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by...
I wasn't here.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed likewise. We're down to item 3A on your agenda. It's a public hearing to consider the request of Fairhope Medical Park. This is a project out on the Greeno Road next to the high school. Mr. Dice, welcome. You're going to present this?
Yes, sir, I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned, this is a public hearing for a multiple occupancy project. It's the Fairhope Medical Park. It's a 3-unit project, and it's located at southeast corner of intersection of Greeno Road and County Road 44. Staff had reviewed this. It's also in the city's planning jurisdiction, not in the corporate limits. It's in its planning jurisdiction. We have reviewed this. In your staff report, there were 4 as a recommendation for approval, with 5 items to be considered for condition, and all those are in effect. On number 4, it references condition number 4, but it should be condition number 5. But other than that, Mr. Chairman, staff does recommend approval.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dice. Commission members, you all have any questions of...
Wayne, just one question.
Yes, sir.
On the traffic, it says the lot fronts of Baldwin County Road where the traffic study improvements are required. Therefore, the county will have authority rather than the city regarding traffic. Has there been any conversation about that?
Nancy, have we had any contact with the county regarding the access to this site?
I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, I do know that with the county road, the county does provide a permit. You have to get a permit from them to access the county highway, and I believe if at that time when it starts construction, that would be required. But as it says, the county does control that roadway, and so they do control the access to it.
So it would be under the required permits that they have to get. That would be under the section that says they have to get all required permits.
That's right. At the time of construction, what they'll do is go to the highway department, get a culvert permit for it, but it's basically a driveway permit, and at that time the county will evaluate it and issue it at that time. But it would occur at the time of construction.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Wayne? Wayne, I have one. Ralph and I had a discussion prior to the meeting. What's ADOT's rules on the distance between traffic lights? I'm just curious.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not familiar with what ALDOT's rules for that is. I know that it's strictly regulated typically, and to get a traffic light, you have to have basically a warrant study done, and they will evaluate the a number of things. But I do know that in my dealings with ALDOT that they definitely try to limit the number of curb cuts. But I can't tell you what those rules are off the top of my head. I'd be glad to get back with ALDOT and at the next meeting provide some information on that if that's appropriate.
We just had a general discussion about it, and I was curious about it.
Yes, sir. I do know that for any traffic light, there is a warrant study that's required that they do, and they do a pretty in-depth study of that before they'll issue a light.
Right. Thank you.
Mr. Dias, do you have any architectural guidelines for this? Do we know what the composite or the construction is going to be?
We have plans. There are no guidelines that the county or the city enforces. This is in the planning jurisdiction of the city. I'm not aware of any guidelines that the county has or the city has as far as enforcement of those architectural standards. The applicants are here. They might could tell you more about what their plans are for the project as far as the color and architectural elements of it. But we do have some plans. Nancy, do you have those drawings? We do have some plans that were submitted in conjunction with their application.
Yeah, okay. I think they brought them to a meeting.
Okay.
But, yeah.
You have them what you Right.
I didn't know if it was brick, board and batten, tin roof, composite roof,
Yes.
what?
From our requirements, we don't require those, but if they want to tell you more about what their plans are, I think it might be appropriate tonight if they would kind of tell you what their vision is for the project and how it may look.
It's coming up to me a lot in the public, people
Right.
wondering why there aren't any kind of guidelines of
Right.
what's coming in, and so I just asked the question.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, the design guidelines are they are used in a lot of different jurisdictions. I'm not aware of any in Fairhope or in the county, so but they are a very appropriate tool many times on a corridor that's heavily traveled. You're trying to maintain the aesthetic character of the corridor. It is very appropriate at times, and maybe in the future that's some discussion we might want to have as far as if that's appropriate on the Greeno Road 98 corridor in the future.
Thank you, Wayne. Any questions? The engineer or developer, his representative, y'all have any comments? Okay. We'll get down to the public hearing portion of this application. I have no one signed up, but at this time I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak about this project, this application? Anyone at all? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing portion of the application. Commission members, what's your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve based on staff recommendations.
All right. I have a motion and a second to approve with Ralph did. With staff's recommendations. Any discussion upon the motion? Any at all? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. The application's approved. Next on our agenda is 3B item. It's case number SD 17.07. This is a request from Jade Consulting on a final plat for Bridlewood Farms. Mr. Dice, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is also in the city's planning jurisdiction. It's a request for a final plat for Bridlewood Farms, which is an 11-lot subdivision. It's located on the west side of Langford Road across from My Way. Mr. Chairman, in your packet, you have staff recommendation for approval. There were 6 conditions. 3 of those have been met and have been removed. Staff would like to remove those conditions. The other 3 are still remaining, which are typical conditions we have on our applications. Other than that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Don't have any questions of Mr. Dice? Any at all? All right. Trey, you have comments?
No, sir, at this time.
All right. I'll open the public hearing portion of this application. I have no one signed up. Is there anyone that wishes to speak during the public hearing portion of this application? Anyone at all? Seeing none, the public hearing portion of the application is closed. Commission members, what's your pleasure?
Move approval.
All right, I have a motion from Ralph to make, to approve it with staff's
With
recommendation.
staff
Ralph?
recommendation.
With
I'm
staff's
sorry, yes.
recommendations. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Bob. Any discussion upon the motion? Any at all? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed likewise. Application's approved. We're down to 3C on the agenda. Case number SD 17.08. This is a request for our final plat approval for Woodlawn Phase 3, a 34-lot subdivision. Mr. Dice, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned, this is a final plat approval for Woodlawn, Phase 3, 34 lots, located on the south side of County Road 44 and west of Bonaventure Street. It is also inside the corporate limits of the city of Fairhope. In your staff recommendation, you have an approval recommendation. There are 4 conditions that we would like to point out. And also, we are working through a tree protection issue, and we hope to have that resolved in the near future. So we'd also like to add that tree protection issue be evaluated and completed prior to final plat.
All right, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Dice? Any at all? All right, thank you, Mr. Dice. Is the developer's engineer or rep here? Comments?
Answer any question you have.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the developer? All right, under the public hearing portion of this application, I'm going to open it up, and I have 2 people signed up. First, Mr. Thomas Allen. Mr. Allen, as you come up, would you give Emily your address, please?
726 Whittington Avenue, Fairhope. It's right adjacent to the to this new development. A couple of comments that we would like to ask about. Number one is there's only a central entrance into the subdivision, which has three phases. Phase one is completed. Phase two is almost completed, and then this is phase three. There's going to be a total of houses of approximately 150 to 160 houses. There's about 80 in phase one, and then in phase two and three, I think there's going to be another 75 or 80. So our concern is the traffic coming in for all of it, and I know there's difficulty involved in finding another entrance into that subdivision, but coming off of County Road 44, there has been some opportunities with homes there that might be purchased and taken down and putting an entrance there. I don't know what the standard is, but it appears to me that there's going to be quite a bit of traffic problems that are going to occur there at Bonaventure and County Road 44, since there's only one entrance to it. That's one of our main things. The other thing that I'm concerned about too, we've had some difficulty with traffic with speeders coming through there, especially especially from the construction industry coming through there. There's a good many children that live in there, buses that come through, and so there's concern in the neighborhood about that traffic. Now, I've noticed that in the new area, the phase 3 and possibly down to in phase 2, speed limit signs are saying 20 miles an hour. In phase 1, which is ours, speed limit signs are 25. I'm just wondering if we cannot make them the same, both of them 20 miles an hour, since it is a fairly populated area, and especially with children, and you've got a lot of only one entrance, and the streets are pretty short and that sort of thing. So I'm concerned about that issue and would like to bring that to your attention, then see if we can't make that equal throughout at a lower speed. We're anxious to see it. I have with me the current president of the Homeowners Association in Phase 1. I was the first Homeowners Association president that came on board when we took it away from the builder that had set it up. So those are the main things that we are concerned about. We want to be good neighbors, and we want that to be a good area for the homes to be put up for sale whenever we get ready to sell ours. If we do, we've enjoyed the neighborhood. It's convenient. It's close to Walmart. Everybody likes to be close to Walmart, and yet it's not too close for the traffic that's involved. So I thank you for your attention.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your comments. Next, I have Mr. James Whitson.
729 on. As Tom said, I am current president of the POA. And again, my concern was, as it was when the when this phase was initially proposed, and they asked for comment, I commented on the ingress and egress, there being only one. 729 Amador is everybody that comes in or out of that subdivision passes my house. So it would be very nice if there was another way. But if there was some sort of accident or something at Bonaventure and Twin Beach, then nobody can leave or enter the subdivision. That seems a problem to me. If someone were to have an accident, say, next to my house, and somebody then had a fire, you wouldn't be able to get the fire department in there. It's just something that needs to be understood anyway. And if there's any way at all that you can alleviate that situation, I'd recommend that you alleviate it, because it's a potential problem, especially in the event of a hurricane or those sorts of things. People would be trapped in their homes and they wouldn't be able to leave if something happened on Bonaventure. The other thing I would ask, and I'm sure this is not really what the Planning Commission does, but with an additional 70 houses, there's going to be even more traffic on Bonaventure, and there needs to be some sort of traffic control on Bonaventure and Twin Beach. A traffic signal, three-way stop, or something just to protect the people coming in and going out of the subdivision. A little more police presence on Twin Beach wouldn't hurt either, but I realize that's not your bailiwick either. But I mean, again, my house backs onto the house that owned Twin Beach, and every time, about 4 o'clock every afternoon, there's a motorcycle that goes down Twin Beach. It sounds like he's doing about 200 miles an hour, but it's probably just a big moped. But anyway, those are my concerns, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your comments. Anyone else? Anyone else before I close the public hearing? Public hearing portion of the application is closed. All right, Mr. Dice, you have some thoughts?
I do, Mr. Chairman, and hearing the comments and the questions, I would definitely do have concerns that they share with the speed and so forth. As far as the actual access and ingress and egress and another location to get in and out, as you all know, this is the final plat, which means all the infrastructure is in place. This is the final step in that process. And our job with final plats is to go out there and ensure that everything has been installed as the preliminary plat required. Because the preliminary plat does not have an egress and egress on it, that's not something that we looked at. So from our perspective, I'm not sure at this point how much can be done now to evaluate ingress and egress. I might want to ask the representative here tonight from the developer if there's anything they know of that could be done. So that's something that we definitely are concerned about. But at this stage, I'm not sure if how much we can do about that. As far as the speeding, we can definitely communicate to the police department the concerns of that. We can do that. There's no issues with that whatsoever. Any kind of traffic calming devices, I know the city would evaluate those. Changing the speed limits inside the neighborhood, I think that's something the POA could probably do on their own. And there could be some discussions about the city installing the signs for them and that kind of thing. So we definitely understand those concerns, and we will convey those concerns to the appropriate parties as much as we can. But tonight, with the final plat, we're very limited in the scope of what we can do at this point as far as the ingress and egress.
I got a question.
Sure. Ralph has the floor.
When I took into account what these gentlemen said about the traffic and then one road going in and out, has anybody checked to see that emergency access vehicles will be able to get in and get out of there under the circumstances? It sounds like I might be a little tight getting in and out.
I think with the previous phases, I think that's something we evaluate is the ingress and egress requirements for the emergency vehicles and the turning radiuses and those sorts of things. With the first two phases, I'm sure those have met those, and this one does as well, because we do look at that. That's something we are concerned about. And so from that standpoint, now obviously when you have one access point, if that access is blocked, that's one of the bigger concerns. That's why the redundancy in access is important in a lot of cases. In this case, maybe something we should have done maybe early on in the process, but it is definitely a learning experience for the future larger developments. That's something that I would highly encourage in the future.
What did Jim Morrow say? Woulda, coulda, shoulda?
That's right. That's right. But it is a concern, because if you do have an access block, you do have an issue there.
One improvement was noted, it's a double yellow line and a speed bump 50 feet in.
Yes, sir.
Is that the only improvement that's been made on traffic?
I believe that's the only one we had conditions on, we reviewed. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
So, I guess my question is, how much trouble would it be to change that speed sign? Is it from the POA, or is it something that the developer would want to take on? How does that work?
Okay. Emily's telling me that we have a traffic committee that needs to go through the traffic committee and make that request. And then from there, it would go and, I guess Public Works would install the signs. So I would encourage them to contact the traffic committee. I'm assuming they can contact City Hall and, okay. Tyron Hosmith at the police department? Okay, good. So we've got a solution here already.
All right. Any other comments? What's your pleasure, folks?
I'll move approval with the staff recommendations.
All right. I have a motion to approve it with staff's recommendations. Do I have a second on the motion?
Do you want to add the traffic, the speed?
The committee, traffic committee will review it.
I think that's something that that's not necessarily attached to the approval of this, isn't it?
Well, for final plat, I believe that may be outside the scope of the final plat. We could certainly make sure they get to the traffic committee. I don't know for a final plat. Final plats are very, very narrowly defined in the statute of what you can look at and what you can't consider. The preliminary plat's a little more wide open from that standpoint, but final plats is a much narrower scope. But we will assist them in making sure they get to the traffic committee and make that request, and work with them to, if that's approved, to get the speed limits reduced and established in the neighborhood. And also contact the police department.
Another part of that was tree protection.
Right.
So that's not on here, but.
Yeah. Resolution to the tree protection issue, that's something we're working through right now, and I would just amend it to include resolution to the tree protection for the site.
All right. Do I have a second on the motion?
George, this gentleman has raised his hand out there.
Yes, sir. Public hearing's closed, but I'll entertain your question.
I was just going to comment on what he said. I think, if I'm understanding correctly, the original plat was done when phase 1 was put in. I don't even know if phase 2 and 3 were even under that first original plat, which meant this has all transpired since the original plat was done. So, I don't know how we would exchange it if we could.
Right.
All right.
Many times if you don't have a master plan where the whole site's planned out, it's hard to really look into the future. I understand their concern at this point, though. I think we're limited in our scope.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dice. Any more discussion upon the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed likewise.
Who was the second? I'm sorry. I have Ralph as the no second.
Who made the second?
I moved it, I don't know.
David, did you make the second?
I did with the.
With the question, yeah, I thought so, yeah.
With the tree protection.
All right, any old business or new business to come before the planning commission this evening? Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
We adjourned.